our community needs to be more educated, and people needs to engage more, like just and be very careful of what they wish for, because this movement is so easily be hijacked into something they hate.
And I spoke to a friend who is a moderate Democrat, and she was very involved with the Black Lives Matter at the beginning.
Yeah.
And she said sometime in June,
Yeah.
no, July, she left the Black Lives Matter. And I said, why? She said, people hijacked it for their own political agenda. They stopped caring about Blacks, what Black want. They want these policies. One of the things that made her really angry was defunding police.
Yeah.
She said, she lives in South Central LA. That used to be the place where gangs hang out, and it's safe now. And now it's becoming unsafe because they had spent a lot of money asking the Los Angeles Police Department to put together community policing. These officers used to drive through with their guns, and they don't never get out of their cars. These officers knew everyone on the street. And a lot of the community members, they can pick up the phone. They actually know the officer's personal cell phone. They call them and say, please help. And the officer's over. They have that type of relationship. And defunding the police has broken that relationship.
Yeah, it's organic things. So you cannot just easily demolish some institution which is working. It's been working for years, right?
Yeah.
It's very radical.
And if you do a research on this, as it relates to SB 82, is that since the passage of 47, property crime skyrocketed.
Definitely.
I didn't want to quote it because I can't remember, but there was a criminal justice article I read where in some places, it was the property crimes is 4 times more than before the Proposition 47 passed. Mm-hmm. And so because what happened is if you talk to a police officer, literally this is what he'll say. Oh, you caught me? Give me a ticket. Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, that's it. Just emboldened, right? They just, and I think why there's a statistic is not on this side, because this side doesn't have that resource, doesn't have that platform, doesn't have those voice. But people know it, right? People, this common sense, we can feel it, and everybody knows it. But it's about power.
Yeah. I think it'll be great if you have opportunities to as election comes around, invite those candidates to come talk to you and know what they stand for. I mean, it's so sad when I look at Asian Americans. I mean, they complain about everything, and yet they vote for to me, I think the Democratic Party is the more racist than Republicans, because Republicans, we have dumb people who make remarks.
Yeah.
But the Democrats are much more dangerous because they do it covertly.
Mm-hmm. Covertly.
And so by promoting policies like critical race theory and affirmative action, that's covert racism. And you don't know it until it happened to you. I was talking to a high schooler that I mentor, and I think he may run for office in about 2 years. So I'm talking to him, and, we were talking about his grades and everything. And, he said to me, I don't know if I'll get in anywhere. I said, I forgot to mention, I was part of the group that got rid of Proposition 187 and 209, right? If you look at statistics before 209, the Asian Americans to Berkeley was at 22, at the most 24%. After we eliminated affirmative action, we're at 48 to 52%. Yeah. So I was telling this kid, I said, if you were me back in 1989 applying for college with that grade and SAT score, you'll never get in.
Yeah.
You'll never get in because you're Asian American. And what they're going to say to you is, oh, sorry, we have 22%. And so you cannot come anymore. We don't care if you're the valedictorian. You're the top of your class. You have perfect SAT score. we already hit 22%. You cannot come to Berkeley. You can't come to UCLA. Now I told him, I said, with that grade, you're so active in the community, you're doing all this. Don't worry about it. You should get in. Yesterday, he sent me a text and said, I got into Berkeley, right? It's such a huge difference that, without affirmative action, that kid will never get into Berkeley.
Yeah, but surprisingly, that Prop 16 was stopped. That's a good news, right?
That's stupid. Yeah, but look at how many Asian Americans supported Proposition 16.
I know. Yeah, it's just
Andrew
virtual
Yang,
signaling. I think,
Andrew Yang, Ed Chow,
Ted Lieu, and
Ted Lieu,
Evan Low, and it's just a bunch of Chinese. Actually, they just did. That's why our community feel like, we really don't want them anymore. But again, this Stop Asian, when it comes up, then people align with them to just yell like systematic racism, and they pointed the finger to whom, right? And people don't even know what they're fighting against.
It's very hard. It's very hard for me because I feel like I'm, people are not taking the time to be educated. And part of that is because our public education never talked about Asian Americans. So they're not going to be educated. And when you go to college, are you going to take a class in Asian American history? You may not. I mean, I did, but I'm one of the few people who did. You go and Google Ted Lieu, and there's another guy named Andrew Chow. They all put on their Facebook about having Asian privilege. Oh my gosh, Andrew Chow from Diamond Bar, just the city next door to me, he and I got into it. I said, since when do immigrants who work hard should be considered Asian privilege? I never had anybody who handed me anything. There are no laws that says, Asians are favored. No, there are laws that are against Asians. There are no laws for Asians. And how dare you put on your Facebook or even speak to me publicly in a Zoom meeting like this and say you have Asian privilege? There's something wrong with your head.
Yeah, I think
I have to tell you, my friend
because
had to
their
stop us.
position, because they are like used as a gambit, and they are willing and they are glad to be a one, and they feel like this. Yeah, this align with their personal interest, their personal career. So if virtual signaling, and especially Ted Lieu, right? There's a video. He argued with some about this judiciary privilege, white privilege, and the other guy was saying, okay, how about those Harvard education case? And he's dismissing it angrily. So ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy who's running against Young Kim, Jay Chen. He went to Harvard, and he was against the Harvard lawsuit, and he also said Asian privilege, which I hope right now he's eating his words. I'm really hoping right now he stopped using that, because all the people I know who used to use Asian privilege, they're all quiet right now. They're very quiet right now. And that was something that I challenged. And I think this is the thing is, and I wish I could
But
teach,
I wish you can teach our next generation. I think for first generation, especially for Chinese immigrants, they see it really clearly because their background, right? Because they're outsiders, they got into this and they see how it played. But for our kids, they really got brainwashed, and they rebel against their own identity sometimes.
Yeah, I actually spent a lot of my time mentoring high schoolers and college students because
more power to you. Yeah.
And that's what I said, a lot of time people concentrate so much on their own political career, their own success, or their own career, they forget to people. And so my motto is pull the person up and push them ahead of you.
Yeah.
I am not going to be jealous of somebody's success, because you know what? If that person is more successful than me, I get to say, I did it. I'm part of this success.
Yeah, you're a booster.
I'm the one who helped them. I pulled them up and I pushed them ahead of me.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
But I would tell you, it is part of human nature. It's human nature to be selfish, your own political ambition, and all about you. And you have to be very selfish to be, elected a leader, right? But I just feel like, and mainly, and like I said to you, I'm the first Asian American elected here in a white town. So I feel the weight of the Asian Americans on my shoulder.
Yeah.
I was the highest ranking Asian American for the longest time in the political party, as vice chair. And so I got the weight of the Republican Party, Asians in Republican Party on me. On top of that, this misperception that Republicans are against Asian Americans. So I've got all of that on me. And so I decided, instead of, saying, I don't want to do it, I'm going to work harder to bring Asian Americans and diversity into the party and helping the next generation. And I'm so happy that, I left my post as the first vice chair. I don't have time for party politics. So they elected another Asian American to replace me as the first vice chair. And I think that is a huge progress, because when I got elected, I will tell you, when I first got elected as the secretary, there were a lot of people who said, "Who are you, Peggy?" And I did people make racist remarks at me? They did. Okay. And the funny thing is that then I had to spend all this time. They wonder if I qualify. So I said, okay, you want to see my qualification? Why don't you call all these candidates? Call these counties and ask them who I am and which campaign I worked on. Then we'll have this conversation. Right. And that, I was chosen by the chairman to run because he said, you know what, we need diversity, Peggy. And I know a lot about you. I need you up here. We need more diversity. I want you to do the outreach. And so, you got to put yourself out there. I will tell you, throughout my political career, I am often the only Asian American or the only Asian American woman in the room. So I mean, I thank you so much for having me on the program, because I really want to bring our next generation up to really help them move up and to really it's now or never. I think
I really appreciate your remark on that, what real leader means, right? Like one says, people think a leader should create followers, right? But a real leader create more leaders. Maybe you can share more about how Asian Americans, even for the first generations, how they can have more opportunity to get success in this field. Share some of your experience and successful stories.
Yeah, so I got started very early. I became a citizen when I was 18, and right away I got involved with politics. I was a member of the College Republicans at Berkeley, worked on campaigns, endless campaigns as a volunteer throughout my college years. I took up an internship in the state capitol. I didn't want to be a partisan person. I am a bipartisan person. So I actually started out my political career, an actual political job, as an intern for a Democrat. And so, so I can learn both sides of the story. And I think a lot of time, what I concluded is often it's just a difference in opinion. And so it's very important to understand what the other side is thinking, so you can come up with a resolution. And so that's where I started. And then I also took up internships in Washington, D.C., working for a nonprofit, and came back to California after I finished law school. And I was a Senate fellow, which is a great program to train post-college graduates, in government work. And so I was a Senate fellow, and I worked for a senator and worked on bills. So throughout this whole time, I continued to be very active in my party. I worked on campaigns, never stopped. And so, and I was a first vice chair for the Republican Party of Orange County for almost, 3 3 years. And prior to that, I was the secretary of the party as well. And just being one of the highest level of Asian Americans in the party politics, and to really get involved with that. And that's how I got started. And so when I did my congressional campaign, I had a lot of high school and college interns who are Asian Americans, and it was great to bring them along and to see that several of them now are thinking about running for office. And that's how we get them started, and to do whatever we can to show them the rope. We got to, reach back with our hand and pull up our Asian Americans. And then most importantly, and I think this is very hard for a lot of politician, is to lower our ambition. And
lower
our ambition, and we push these youngsters ahead of us. It's very important for that. We can mentor people, but when they get successful, we don't sit there and say, okay, well, now you're on your own because you're successful. No, we need to push them and push them forward, make them better than us, have another higher office than us. And it's my hope one day we really do see an Asian American as a president. And I think that's around the corner. Or as the US Senator, we don't have any right now here in California. And even though I know everybody will say Kamala Harris, the vice president, was Asian American, however, she typically identifies herself as Black. Throughout her campaign, she said, I'm a Black woman. So I don't, not that I'm discounting that she's Asian American, but she chose to identify herself more as Black, and called herself the first Black senator from California. Then I think we need an Asian senator who is going to go out there and proudly proclaim to be an Asian American.